First of all, what is stealth wealth? It's about living a simple lifestyle, not constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's about being content with what we have and not worrying about what other people think of us. It's about finding joy in life apart from the need to impress random people on the street with the nice things that we own. If this sounds like the kind of wealthy lifestyle you want to live, let me share with you 10 strategies to help you do exactly that. Hi, if you're new to China, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. The number one way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to celebrate invisibility. When I was in college, I had this deathly fear of eating alone. What would people think of me? Would they all know that I was a complete loser because I didn't have friends to eat lunch with? 20 years later, it's fascinating how my mindset has completely changed 180 degrees. Now, I love eating alone. It's an event that I actually look forward to. When I was young, I was terrified of eating alone because deep down inside, I wanted to be seen. Seen by people that I wasn't a loser, that I had friends, thus I was someone worthy. But the truth is that just like I didn't really care what other people were doing most of the times, no one really cared if I was eating alone or not. If we want to be good at practicing stealth wealth, we want to get good at being content without attention. We don't want to become dependent upon attention as a requirement for our happiness. We want to learn to celebrate being invisible. But of course, we don't want to take this too much to the extreme because being alone all the time in the spirit of stealth wealth is not healthy. We don't want to turn into what Japanese refer to as the hikomori, or modern day hermits. Healthy life requires the foundation of strong relationships, which leads to our next point. The second way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to build a foundation of core, strong relationships. The theme of celebrating invisibility is to develop our independence muscle, the ability to find self-fulfillment apart from attention from people. But that doesn't mean we don't have any relationships. It just means that we have relationships that matter. Our core relationships with family and friends that we care about, and they care about us. Not only is this a proven way to a happier and healthier life, when we have a foundation of strong core relationships, it gives us confidence to ignore everyone else who doesn't matter. Random people on the street doesn't think too much of you? Well, who cares because your kids adore you and your spouse loves you. That's what really matters in the long run. Genuine, authentic relationships will keep us grounded, enable us to be content with being invisible, and ultimately help us sustain the stealth wealth mindset for a long period of time. The third way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to be very careful about discussing money, especially with people we just met or don't know too well. Money is one of the most sensitive topics, and we never know where each person is coming from in respect to their relationship with money. The median national household income in the United States is about $70,000. The median national household net worth in the United States is about $120,000. If you practice good financial habits, the probability is that you're likely in the upper end of the spectrum. And if you aren't there yet, you likely will with time. Be sensitive to these facts. The person you're casually talking to about your latest bonus or the expensive item that you bought could have grown up in complete poverty, making minimum wage and struggling to pay their rent. To casually talk about money just because we feel comfortable about it is quite insensitive. And to be frank, most often those who enjoy flaunting their wealth are seeking attention. Remember the point about celebrating invisibility from earlier? Let's be careful about whom we discuss money topics with. The fourth way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to never discuss our latest fancy vacation trips. Now, if this comes up naturally because you happen to be talking about the Louvre and you bring up the time you visited in order to relate, that is fine. But there is no need to bring up the fancy hotel you stayed at and the 5-star meal you had at an exclusive restaurant unless specifically asked. As humans, we naturally compare. We can't help ourselves. Richard Easterlin, professor of econ from UPenn, coined this term, the Easterlin paradox, in 1974. The paradox states that at a point in time, happiness varies directly with income. But over time, happiness does not trend upward as income continues to grow. The effect of additional money on how we feel about our lives is not just about how wealthy we are in absolute terms, but how wealthy we are compared to other people. So when we start talking about how amazing our vacation trip was, it triggers the effect of social comparison because we can't help ourselves. Your friend who thought they had an amazing time in Paris will feel like their trip wasn't that great once you start talking about yours. Or vice versa. You thought your trip to New York was amazing until your friend shared how she dined at the exclusive 5-star Michelin restaurant. A fun fact, the Michelin rating only goes up to 3 stars, so if someone says they ate at a 5-star Michelin restaurant, don't get impressed. Alright, at this point you might be thinking, Tay, if I can't talk about money and my fancy vacation trips at the water cooler, what can I discuss? The weather? Which leads to the next tip. The fifth way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to be genuinely curious about people. This is straight out of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The reason why at times we feel the need to talk about our fancy vacations is because we're, to be frank, self-absorbed. It's natural. It's natural to have a self-centric perspective of the world. We love to hear the sound of our own voice over other people. I mean, what do you think I have a YouTube channel? It's because I'm narcissistic. And I had to try hard to counterbalance this every day. And a great way to do that is by being curious about other people, other than myself, actively listening and asking them to tell you more. And genuine interest is powerful because when you take interest, this makes you more likable. Going back to our earlier point on building a foundation of strong core relationships, a great way to build great relationships is by being genuinely curious about people. And not only will this expand your social network, you'll naturally learn to become more comfortable not needing attention all the time. Remember, our need for attention oftentimes is a roadblock to successfully practicing stealth wealth. The sixth way to successfully practice stealth wealth is not to flash our toys. This is probably one of the most obvious tips, but hard to do if you like nice things and have nice things. I mean, not that I have one, but if I had a super nice Rolex watch, I would have a hard time just leaving it at home collecting dust. But resist the urge to show off your nice things. Read the room. I mean, if you happen to be invited to a billionaire's fundraiser party, maybe it's fine flashing your jewelry and watches. However, if you're in a regular low-key environment, stealth wealth is probably the best way to go. The number 7 way to successfully practice stealth wealth is not to drive a fancy car. I know this is a pretty tough statement if you love cars, but of all the toys that we own, nothing speaks louder than the car that we drive. When a beautiful Bentley pulls up, everyone turns to take a look. Even if you don't know much about expensive luxury vehicles, you still recognize Bentley as one of those special cars because of all the movies that we've watched. We're all curious beings. So when someone pulls up in a Bentley, we're all curious to know who's driving it. You naturally garner attention. Remember the one that we're trying to avoid? My recommendation is to drive the most economical and safe car you can find. Reliable and inconspicuous are my 2 key words when it comes to a car. In the Kim family, we don't drive fancy cars, but we also don't drive beaters either. Well, not anymore anyhow. My wife drives a 6-year-old Nissan Leaf, and I have a Subaru Crosstrek as my family car. Not the sexiest, but also not the cheapest either. It's enough to take us from point A to B, but most people don't give us a second look. And I personally like that. The number 8 way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to avoid places that encourage lifestyle inflation, or at least recognize them for what they are if you go. Most common of these places are high-end malls, exclusive clubs, and casinos. Understand that these places were meticulously designed to make you want to keep up with the Joneses. They scream wealth and money. Maybe not real wealth and money, because most people are living on borrowed money to maintain their lavish lifestyle, but to the average person, it psychologically affects us to spend more. You know the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. If you want to maintain your stealth wealth status, avoid places that could tempt you to start revealing your wealth. You might be saying at this point, Tay, if I can't drive nice cars, have nice things, and need to avoid nice places, you're essentially telling me to live in a cave, right? Well, not quite so. This is where the next tip comes in. The number 8 way to successfully practice your stealth wealth is to identify your splurge. In our consumption-oriented world, it is easy to get swept up by the masses. All my coworkers just upgraded their iPhones, and for some weird reason, my old phone just doesn't do it for me anymore. I see pictures of my neighbors in Iceland, and for some reason, I'm checking out flight ticket prices. I see a random ad for tacos, and I can't help myself but order tacos for lunch. A way to mitigate being swept up by the masses is to have our unique splurge, an outlet and a release valve so we don't feel like we're living in deprivation mode all the time. For me personally, this comes down to lavishly spending on my hair. For my wife, lavishly spending on fanciest coffee she could find. And for our family, lavishly spending on vacations. Of course, most on point so we can mitigate our costs. By having these release valves, it keeps us from feeling deprived and the need to spend to keep up with the people around us. The number 9 way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to get out. And get out of our bubble. In my previous life, I've been exposed to many interesting situations very different from the life that I grew up in. I served into impoverished North Korean villages as a soldier stationed near the DMZ. I've surveyed orphanages in rural India as a non-profit consultant. And I oversaw renovation of rundown buildings in South LA inundated by gangs. Though all these are located in completely different parts of the world, the common theme was this. The world is a big place and I'm a very small part of it. And when you're exposed to the world, it puts a new light into perspective. I stated earlier how the median household income in the United States is about $70,000. Though this may feel small for some, when we place it in global scale, it gives us a new perspective. According to a Gallup poll, the median annual household income worldwide is about $9,700. Less than $10,000. If you're making $70,000 or more, you're considered wealthy from a global perspective. When we can digest this fact into our bones, we can't help ourselves but practice stealth wealth because anything else just doesn't feel right. The number 10 way to successfully practice stealth wealth is to volunteer. If we don't know how to get ourselves out of bubble, one of the most practical ways to do that is by volunteering. Volunteer at your local church, your favorite nonprofit, or even at your kid's school. Volunteering naturally exposes us to others and shows us how much we have. One of my most memorable volunteering experiences was participating in a water well drilling trip in rural El Salvador. I was part of a team that helped to drill water wells for a village that didn't have direct access to clean water. Not only was the experience of joining people's faces when they had access to clean water exciting, it humbled me to know that there were people who were struggling to get basic needs like water in today's world. When I came back home and turned on my water faucet, it was hard to look at it the same way. The bottom line to living a successful stealth wealth is pretty straightforward. Avoid lifestyle inflation, don't flash your bling blings, and don't brag or talk about too openly about your wealth, money, or investments. Pursuing a stealth wealth lifestyle will lead you to a more content life because your focus is not on impressing others with what you have, but rather on living your best life. Thank you guys for watching, and in the spirit of stealth wealth, if you'd like to learn more about a similar topic, frugal wealth, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.